Greetings, brave adventurers! My name is FoxyBard, and welcome to another Community Day. Now, usually on Community Day, I like to feature a few stories from a few different members of my community. But this one's pretty long, and it is technically from two different users. Two brothers, actually, who were both part of the same campaign. This is one I have wanted to tell for a while, but after I saw that they were adding and revising each other's work, I wanted to wait until they both said it was good. A huge thank you to both AquaDragon42 and Phalian for providing this glorious horror story for us. Yeah, it's a horror story, but it does involve a DM simping way too hard for one of the brothers, actually. It's also appropriate for Pride because a lot of the parties involved are queer, including the simping DM, and, I'll be the first to admit that queer people are not a monolith, and yeah, we can sometimes get a little bit, I hate the term, but cringy as well. This is a bit of a long one, so better grab yourself a seat around the fire as we dig into this story of role-playing. Tale start. While my main group of friends were busy with other things, I decided to join an Adventurers League game of D&D at a favorite card shop of mine. I came in and decided to roll up a dragonborn fighter known as Draconis, who had the noble background. From the background, I chose to have a couple of assistants. I thought they would help keep watch at night and maybe take care of my character's equipment. They did not. Apparently, the DM thought it was funny that their entire characters were just two things. They were gay and snuck off to have adult fun time whenever possible. You want them to keep watch at night? Too bad. They're just gonna sneak off even when their liege gave them a direct order to only have adult fun on their time. During this time, my work schedule was consistently changing as I worked retail and I was not able to make it to many sessions. After a couple of months, I was able to get a new job with a consistent schedule and was able to make it to sessions every week, though I requested if I could bring back Draconis as a paladin, which the DM agreed to. I did change the background to soldier because I was sick of the assistants not assisting with anything, and because his backstory allowed it. Draconis quickly became the party dad as he tried his best to keep all the chaotic characters from getting into too much trouble. Now, the campaign was based around escorting an NPC all over the land to get the NPC their blessings to remove a magical curse and or poison so they may live. The gods each represented a different school of magic, though they also needed to get a blessing from Bahamut. Why is this strange, you might ask yourself? Well, Draconis was a devout follower of Bahamut. In addition to this, the majority of the enemies were undead and fiend-type creatures, meaning they were all devastated by a paladin's smite! I'm not doing it again. This quickly led to Draconis getting kills left and right, even though we had a storm barbarian on our team. I also noticed that Draconis was given specific items that were extremely powerful and could only be used by Draconis. One such item was a Holy Avenger, which made the undead and demonic enemies go from easy to a cakewalk. He gave a Holy Avenger to me, while the rest of the players had, at best, +2 weapons. He also gave Draconis my choice of a blessing at the end of his arc. He could either get a +2 to Con, an upgraded breath weapon, or the ability to heal 1d4 hit points for every point expended from his Lay on Hands ability. I chose the healing ability since the party needed healing all the time, and Draconis was the only one who could heal. As a Vengeance Paladin, Draconis was not only healing the party, but he had damage that rivaled the Barbarian while also casting buffs on the party. One-man army. The second item was an item that the party needed to finish the quest, but it could only be used by a lawful good character. And, take a wild guess. Who was the only lawful good character in the party? Towards the end of the campaign, the way towards the god Bahamut was guarded by an angel that was hell-bent on not letting the party pass without a fight, until I had Draconis roll a persuasion check, and the angel backed off in shame. Draconis spoke with the avatar of his god and got the NPC their last blessing, though the DM also had the avatar bless Draconis with an additional 3rd level spell slot, the highest level slot I had available at the time, before having the big bad evil guy and her lackey burst in for the final battle. I will give you 3 guesses on who, coincidentally, got the finishing blow, and the first 2 don't count. Yes, it was Draconis, because of course it was. You would think the simping ended here with the campaign finished, and it should have, but it didn't. A while later, this same DM and I began talking over Facebook over numerous things that seemed innocent enough at the time, including that he had a crush on me when we played the campaign. Now, I didn't mention this before, but during said campaign, I believed myself to be a straight man, and only after the campaign ended did I come out as bi, and the DM was a gay man. Eventually, we decided to hang out at his place, which I agreed to. Once there, we hung out a little, and he wanted to show me his Nintendo Switch, which was hooked up in his room, and I agreed. He let me play a bit while sitting on the edge of his bed, and he laid next to me with his shirt pulled up just looking at me. I was beginning to get creeped out, and my instincts told me one thing. Run! I placed the controller down and apologized, but told him I was going to be taking my leave before walking out of there. He definitely wanted to have adult fun time with me right there, but I wasn't having it. Another important detail is that at this point in time, I had a boyfriend, and the DM knew about it. After this, I told my boyfriend about what happened and cut all ties with that DM. It turns out, before the DM and I agreed to hang out, he asked my boyfriend how I was in bed, which is scummy at best. Really, really, really creepy at worst. I am thankful to say I have never seen him since. Whew, big relief. Now, this might be where I'd normally say, tail end, and then give you a big, long, rambling jumble of my thoughts on it, but the narrator for this first part of the story was AquaDragon42. Here is where his brother, Phalion, picks up. I am the twin brother of the paladin player and was there since the beginning. I can confirm everything in the story is true. Being a player in that game, it wasn't just simping that hurt the story, it was the fact that he allowed a couple of players to cause several problems during the campaign. The first was the rogue, who was new to D&D. This guy would sneak ahead of the group and steal as much treasure as he could before everyone else even knew it existed. And the DM did absolutely nothing to try to stop this. Hey, come on, you gotta split the treasure. You're all playing. Note that this was at an Adventurers League game, so he was taking the gold from about 6 to 8 players. I eventually took the player aside after a game and calmly requested that he stop sneaking off to take the treasure because it was holding the rest of the group back. It was a calm and civil discussion, and after that he didn't steal treasure again. Oh, okay, cool, so it's just a new player not really familiar with group etiquette. I understand. Then we have the other problem player. This guy was a Cavalier Fighter / Forge Cleric of Moradin multiclass who claimed to be lawful good, but I am pretty sure he was some form of evil. Now, I would admit that I wasn't playing the nicest character, a fiend-packed warlock who traded his edginess for cockiness. The problems didn't start right away, but it did start within the first couple months. The party was just getting themselves back up from fighting a couple hags who ran away. My brother had then introduced a character he had made after coming back temporarily. What does this guy do? He claims that my brother's brand new Genasi Eldritch Knight was in league with the hags and attacked, getting a crit and making short work of my brother's new character. Well, I hate that. What DM allows this? This wouldn't be the last time he performs PvP and gets away with it. At the time, there were actually 2 DMs, but the second DM had nothing to do with any of the problems. Just that at 2 points, the party was split for a couple sessions, some with DM1 and others with DM2. I was with DM2 while my brother was with DM1, and that's the Simp DM. Now, when my group got to the city my brother's group was in, a civilian was singing the praises of the problem player, claiming the player was a noble and near celebrity level beloved by some of the populace. When the group met up, my warlock mentioned the person and said that they should probably sell autographs from the problem player so we could buy a cart, as my character was tired of walking everywhere. My brother's paladin wanted to argue out of habit, as my character was pretty hard chaotic neutral, but stated he saw nothing wrong as it was perfectly legal. The problem players said they couldn't, but wouldn't say why. My warlock pressed him, confused and angry that he was holding them back from easy and legal gold. Then, out of nowhere, he thought it was a good idea to come at the warlock with his sword and gave him a nasty cut. My warlock was about to give him a few eldritch blasts in his smug face before our team leader, a barbarian who was played by an amazing player, broke us up before I could return fire. Again, the DM did nothing to stop PvP combat. Then again, the problem player did mention that he wasn't the noble he was claiming to be, but stole his identity. Once the paladin heard this, he pinned the poor SOB to the wall and threatened a point-blank blast of ice breath if he didn't start explaining. It was oddly satisfying to see a lawful good paladin support my chaotic neutral warlock. Okay, yeah, but it was also your brother. This wasn't the last PvP against my character, as another time he summoned his imp familiar named Timmy, after the character from the sitcom The Dinosaurs. Yes, whenever he died, I would say, "We're going to need another Timmy." I stated that Timmy was going to go invisible and followed the leader and problem player to keep an eye on them as they scouted the city. If anything happened, Timmy would fly back and bring the cavalry. Apparently, problem player didn't like Timmy and calmly stated such. Nah, he grabbed a javelin and tried to impale the imp while he was still on my shoulder. Don't do that. Of course, I was in shock and asked him why he would attack my familiar and, by extension, myself without warning. He claimed it was because he's a cleric and my imp is lawful evil. I tried to explain that he can't just assume something's alignment and believe he's in the right. I don't know, have you met paladins? I even turned to the DM and asked how he was still in Moradin's favor after he had attacked my character multiple times. Note, throughout the campaign, I never attacked first. He always did. Yet time and time again, the DM would just let it happen, with not so much as a finger wag. But what about the simping DM himself, you may ask? Was there anything else that may have been warning signs that he not only blatantly favored some, but punished others? Well, possibly yes and no. As I have mentioned before, my character was a half-elf, fiend-packed warlock, so I was focused on fire spells. As you can imagine, fire spell attacks don't work well against demons and fiends, which were the main enemy type in the second half of the campaign, so I couldn't use my favorite spell. I mean, who does not love Fireball? All your allies who got caught in your last Fireball, they don't love it. Anyway, there were a few other important points in the story. First that I can recall was the custom item he made for each of the consistent players. Mine was a ring that belonged to my character's mother, who they killed. Don't worry, she was a horrible person who despised anyone who could not use magic, so somewhat fantasy ableist? Ew. The ring itself would do 1d100 damage? And required a spell slot. That sounds OP until you realize the insane drawbacks. If you were to roll 35 damage or more, you are knocked prone. 60 damage or more would stun you for the next round. 100 damage would instantly knock your HP to 0 with absolutely no saves. If that wasn't bad enough, 100 damage on a critical hit would instantly kill your character with no chance of coming back. What? Ugh. Looking over all of that, would you blame me for only using the darn thing less than 10 times over the course of a 1.5 year long campaign? He also had his DMPC, who we were escorting throughout the entire campaign. To be fair, they were not combat and had no class levels. Harass my character even when he tried to help the child out of several months of personal crises. I know my character wasn't lawful good levels of nice, more well-intentioned a-hole. But seriously, this guy didn't want to talk to mine at all. It got to the point where his character, self-pitying, pushed mine to slap him before drilling into his head that he isn't a freak, that he is still the master of his own destiny, that everyone surrounding him is just as much of an oddball as he was. That's a good message. Yeah. Normal is not the norm. It's just a uniform. Well, sadly, I only got halfway through the first sentence before the problem player I mentioned countless times before tackled my warlock to the ground and loudly made his desire known to kill my warlock to the party. Mind you, this was over a slap from a frail caster with an 8 in strength. Thankfully, the barbarian got him off of me, more like brobarian, and calmed everyone down. Was that not enough to be a warning that the DM may not like my character? Well, it should have been, but I have never been good at socializing and horrible at reading people. By the end of the campaign, we had all made it to level 12, and my warlock had become a warlock sorcerer multiclass, specifically Divine Soul, and that may have gotten to my character's head. This also has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that at the time, Kamen Rider X-Aid was airing and Goddan Kuruto was cementing his role as meme lord with a god complex and thinking it would be interesting in the campaign. In the final fight, as the final boss asked us if we knew who she was, my character could only react with, "A corpse?" Sorry, spoilers. My character only got halfway through his statement before the DM thought using the spell Power Word Kill would be fair. My character had 72 hit points at max, so it was an instant kill. Luckily, my brother's paladin was able to get my character back on his feet before I had to start rolling death saves. After the boss's second in command chased my warlock for the entire fight. So while the rest of the team was having an epic fight of good versus evil, I was stuck in a Benny Hill chase skit. Yay. After all of that, we are still not done. We were able to get the DMPC to finally ascend to godhood and stated that he would grant each person a wish. My character requested information on how to become a god himself because of the aforementioned god complex. The DMPC not only rejected this, but stated that because of the god my character was connected through due to Divine Soul Sorcerer, he said that he was going to kill my character. Yeah, choosing the God of Lies may not have been the best choice, but with how much he used lies to manipulate and get information, it made sense. The Brobarian saved my character and said he wanted to use his wish to keep my character alive. This wish was accepted, but the DMPC said that my character would have his connection to the God of Lies completely cut, and all sorcerer levels converted into warlock levels. That's just... oh, what the heck? Come on. It's the end of the campaign, just be nice. I know that this isn't much compared to other horror stories, but mind you, this is in addition to the actions in the previous story. Sometimes I do look back and miss that old group, except for Problem Player and DM. I still keep the old physical character sheet. Oh. Okay, now, tail end. Oh, thank you both of you for sharing this very long story. I hope that all of you viewers can understand why I wanted to wait until both parts were fully done. I was already pretty ready to dislike this DM after the first part, but with the second part in addition, ooh, now we have 2 people to dislike. Because yeah, the Problem Player was, a big problem. So, to all DMs out there, do not allow PvP in your games unless you okay it with everyone beforehand. To all you players out there, just be nice to your other party members. If you have a problem with them out of game, talk to them out of game. Don't take it out on their characters and ruin the game for everyone else. That's no fun. Like, yeah, not everyone's gonna get along, and that's okay, that happens, that's life. But you shouldn't drag it into the thing that you're doing with a bunch of other people. Oh, also, D&D is not a dating game. Do not use your connections to people through D&D to try to get them to sleep with you. That is not okay. And, I mean, like Phalian said, this is hardly the worst horror story, even just on my channel, flashback to a week ago. But, you know, these kind of experiences are still unfortunate. We all play this game to have fun, and making it stressful is just awful. Please don't do that. It's fun. Just have fun. That form of fun can take many, forms, but it's the most important part. You have to play the game to have fun, whatever form that takes. If you want a whole party of murder hobos just going through dungeons and towns and killing everything in your way, do it. Find a group for that. You could have a ton of fun doing that. If you're someone who doesn't really want combat hardly at all and just wants to roleplay, there's a lot of groups for that too, and everything in between. Personally, I like a lot of roleplay, but enough combat for my inner power gamer self to just come out and shine a little bit. Granted, I'm usually support, so I'm making my other players way better. That's what I love. End of the day, try to be like the Brobarian in this story, looking out for the party and stopping fights. They were the true hero here, definitely. But I think with that, we're gonna end it. Don't forget to like the video if you liked the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and as today was Community Day, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the FoxyBard Community Discord server. It's down in the description below. We're very active and we'd love to have you. The channel keeps on growing and I love to see it, but if I want to be able to keep doing this more full time, I really gotta get to that 1,000 mark. But I'm not going to beg. It is up to you all if you share me with your friends. But it is time to go. So let's douse the fire and get back to our own adventures.